Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah wa kafa, wa salamun ala ibadihi allazina istafa amma ba'd. Fa'auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Yawma la yanfa'u malun wa la banun illa man atallaha biqalbin salim. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wa salamun alal mursaleen. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad wa barik wa sallim. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad wa barik wa sallim. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad wa barik wa sallim. Rabbi yassir wa la tuassir wa tammim bil khair wa bika nasta'een. Rabbi zidni ilma. Ya Fattah, Ya Fattah, Ya Fattah. So Alhamdulillah, by grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are back in our session. It's a blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He allows us to come into such gatherings. And Alhamdulillah, we are now entering into a very important period starting from tonight. In fact, tonight is the first night of Dhul-Hijjah, so already a very important period has started. It's important because it's an opportunity for us to reconnect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As I keep on explaining, that there are times, that there are periods that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has left for us to get an instant boost of connection, of love, of energy, of positivity, of forgiveness. There's one period that comes in the month of Ramadan where the whole month, the entire purpose of it, the entire structure of it, how it has been defined by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how it has been made by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how it has been constructed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is that it's entirely there for us to gain spiritual strength. And therefore Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said that the purpose of Ramadan is so that you may become a person of taqwa, a person who is at such profound love of Allah that you don't want to do anything that would upset Allah, nor would you want to leave anything that would please Allah. Ramzan does that for you. It gives you that high state of taqwa. But Shaytan has his ways. It will come and it will distract us. If you think about it, Shaytan is one of the most committed beings to its job description. It does not become lazy. It does not say that, I want to take a day off. It does not say that, I will not invest and, do whatever it takes to fulfill what I have taken a commitment to fulfill. It does everything in its powers to fulfill its role, and that is to take those who are committed to Allah, who are trying to follow that path that leads to Allah, to take them off that. And it does a very good job at that too. Because we tend to become lazy, we tend to become, relaxed, we tend to think that, it's okay, I'll manage. But then it comes and it takes us off that true path. And Allah understands that we are weak. Allah understands that it's an enemy that has an advantage because it sees us, we don't see it. So therefore Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has built these periods that are there to give us a certain boost, an opportunity. One thing that Allah has kept as a weapon against Shaytan, which destroys every effort that Shaytan has made, is the weapon of seeking forgiveness. As soon as you even turn towards Allah, not even like you go out, do an ablution, take a shower, and then do, pray and sit on the mat and then seek, bow to Him and ask Him. You don't need to do any of that. As soon as where you are sitting, while you are lying down, while you are standing, while you are driving, doing anything, you realize that that is something that you had done wrong. And that guilt and remorse makes you go and seek Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's forgiveness. Turn to Him and say that, Ya Allah, I'm sorry, I did that wrong, please forgive me. As soon as even that thought comes, not even the utterance of these words, this thought comes, Allah forgives everything, turns all the bad deeds into the good. Your book of deeds is made clear, and all his effort, all Shaitan's efforts go away. They are written off. You're back on the path once again. So this can be done at any point of the time, at any point in the year, you can do this. But then there are certain days like Ramadan, there are certain other days where the multiplier effect is there as well. That any small action that you do has a far bigger, more profound effect. And these 10 days of Dhul-Hijjah are those days. These 10 days of Dhul-Hijjah has that effect. It has a point where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala really gives a lot of rewards. Inshallah, I will share with you a short talk on the group that will talk more in detail about what are the things that should be done in these 10 days. But today I want to talk about something that's linked with the discussion that we have been having for the last few weeks. The topic of hearts and how the hearts have an effect on us. We have been talking that our hearts has 3 states. And we have been talking that the heart is the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from which all the emotions develop. Heart, in fact, we have seen through different ayats of Quran, through various verses of Quran, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has at times directly addressed the heart to say that it is the heart, it is not the eyes that become blind. In fact, it is the heart that becomes stops seeing. We have seen that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that the ears, the eyes and the hearts, they will be questioned. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said that, do they not have hearts through which they think? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then we saw the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam where he said that there's a flesh in your body, there's a piece of flesh in your body, that if that piece of flesh is sound, the whole body is sound, and if that piece of flesh is corrupt, the whole body is corrupt. And know that piece of flesh is your heart. So why would Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refer so much directly to the heart? Because heart plays a role in controlling who we are. Before, it was very hard for people to digest this concept because logic would tell them that it's not the heart, it's the mind that controls everything. It's the mind that sends out all the signals. It's the mind that make sure that we do something. Hearts is just an organ that pumps blood, and what role does it have to play? Previously, the ulama would have said and explained this, that it's basically not the physical heart, but it's the spiritual heart that is being addressed. However, now recently, as recent as 2022, we just saw this study as well. We learned that even the science now has come to the conclusion that the heart too has neurons that sends out more signals than the neurons in the brain, right? And it is the heart that actually has the capability of sending signals to the brain, to which the brain then complies and responds to. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that heart does not see, or heart is going to be questioned, or heart do they not understand, there's a role that the heart plays. And from there on, we moved on to learn that there are 3 different states of hearts. There is a heart that is a dead heart. There's a heart which is a sick heart. And then the last session, we spent a lot of time on understanding the best state of heart, which is a sound heart, a Qalbun Saleem, right? A heart which is at a state where it is content. A heart, what is a sound heart? A heart in which there resides no one else besides Allah. A heart which is completely subdued to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is completely content with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is completely in profound love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Such a heart is Qalbun Saleem. However, we are humans. It's good to understand all of these things theoretically, but we learn much better if we have an example to relate to. If we know that, well, so and so is a person of Qalbun Saleem. If we know that, that person is Qalbun Saleem, then suddenly we can start understanding that what does a Qalbun Saleem in actual look like. So, a Qalbun Saleem, do we have any example in our Shariat to say that, such a person is actually, if we talk about that person would be a person of Qalbun Saleem? Well, we do. And interestingly, it's not somebody who is just from our Shariat, it is an individual from whom all the religions come. He is the father of all the religions that exist and the monotheistic religions that exist today, be it Judaism, be it Christianity, be it Islam. He is the one who's the father of all of them, right? Who is he? Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has declared him to be a person who has a sound heart. Not just that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has asked us to follow the example of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam and take him as a role model. قَدْ كَانَتْ لَكُمْ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ فِي إِبْرَاهِيمَ. That indeed there is an excellent example for you in Ibrahim alayhi salam. The same words Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has used for Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رُسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. So there is an example in Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and there is an example in Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam. How do we understand this? It's easy to understand. There is a father and there is a son. For us, Ibrahim alayhi salam is like a grandfather. For Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is like a spiritual father. And we follow and take whatever Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam teaches us, but he is not teaching anything which is different from that of Ibrahim alayhi salam. So we take from Ibrahim alayhi salam because Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam's teaching is no different from that of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam as well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he mentioned Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam as his friend, right? وَاتَّخَذَ اللَّهُ إِبْرَاهِيمَ خَلِيلًا, right? That Allah has made Ibrahim alayhi salam a friend. Allah has taken Ibrahim alayhi salam, وَاتَّخَذَ اللَّهُ, Allah has taken Ibrahim alayhi salam as a friend. The title that we give to Ibrahim alayhi salam was that he was Khalilullah, he was a friend of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, if somebody suddenly, Shaytan comes and plays in your mind that, but what about Rasulullah? Well, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what's his title? His title is Habibullah, right? Who's closer, friend or a beloved? Beloved. So let not Shaitan play with your mind and distract you from the rest of this discussion. So start thinking like, oh, what is we talking about? We are not digressing from our iman, all right? So relax. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam to be a person who has a sound heart. He says, Isja'a rabbahu biqalbin salim, right? Wa in min shi'ati la Ibrahim isja'a rabbahu biqalbin salim. He has been quoted as somebody who came to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with a sound heart. So we have an example in front of us that there existed a person who had a sound heart. So all we need to do now is reflect on the life of that friend of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and understand from the incidents that has taken place in his life that what were the qualities that he had that gave him that sound heart. What were the characteristics that he had in his personality that gave him that sound heart. So if we want to live the example of sound heart or Qalbun Salim, if we too desire to have that Qalbun Salim, we too should have the same qualities. Because it's not that this Qalbun Salim is some higher state that cannot be, it's in state of nirvana that you need to be having wings and then only would you have Qalbun Salim. He was a human being like the rest of us. He had issues, problems, he faced difficulties, he faced resistance, he was hated, he had enemies, he had children, he had families issues, he has, and we'll look at that how he had to deal with his wife at times. All of those things were there. But how in those different situations, what was his response? What was his reaction to those issues? That made him a Khalil, a friend, and that made him to be declared that he is a person who has a sound heart. That's inshallah what we will look at. So what was it that made Ibrahim alayhi salam a person of sound heart. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually had to say that he is somebody that he came to his Rabb with a sound heart. First thing, and these are in no particular order, they're all good, these are all qualities that collectively give you a sound heart. But in order of no particular preference, the first thing is that he was a person who was extremely thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was extremely thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The flip of it is that he did not complain to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No matter what situation he was in, he looked at the positive of that situation, and for that positive of that situation, he expressed his gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that shakiral li an'umihi, that he was grateful for his bounties. He was grateful for what he was given. I deliberately said that it's the flip side of it that we need to understand, that he didn't complain. Now, what does that mean, that he didn't complain? Does that mean that, no matter what happened to him, he would just keep quiet? Complaining is complaining when you go and start talking about it with X, Y, Z. Something happens to you, you start, you meet your friend, I don't know where to begin from. I don't know what happened. And you then develop this entire emotional, thing, and you sketch up the whole incident that happened and bring emotions into it, and and in all of this, you are the sorry figure who had to suffer so much, and basically telling your sufferings to others. That's complaining. Why is it complaining? Because it's complaining because all that happened did not happen on its own. If all of that happened, it had the will of Allah for it to happen. Allah had allowed that to happen. Allah had decreed that for it to happen for you. And if we believe that Allah is the best of the planners, Allah has the most wisdom, Allah knows how things should go and what should happen. Now when we are saying to XYZ that this happened to me, we are basically complaining that, the one who's planning has done something wrong and he got it wrong and he planned it wrong. We basically complain because we are hurt, because it does not fit into our perception of how things should be for us. It may be a perfect plan from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but for us, because it is not fitting in right, so we complain. But we are humans. We need to go and express our disappointment and the grief that we are going through. We need to do that. We will be robots if we don't express those emotions. Allah has built that emotion of sorrow, of grief in us. So it would be very illogical to say that, I'll just never express my emotions to anyone. I'll not tell anyone what I'm going through. That's also wrong. So how do we combine all of this? What did Ibrahim alayhi salam do? A person of sound heart. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also explains what he did. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that Ibrahim alayhi salam, he was ever turning to Allah. Inna Ibrahim lahalimun awwahum munib. Ibrahim alayhi salam was forbearing, he was halim, forbearing, very patient, and ever turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Awwah basically means somebody who's imploring, who's very patient. And munib is somebody who often returns. So Ibrahim alayhi salam, he would first try to, deal with the situation. Whatever is coming with it, he would not instantly react. He would be forbearing. He would take it in its own stride. And then he would be patient. He would say that, all right, it will become better, it will become better. But when it became overbearing, and there were things in his life which became overbearing, he would complain, but that complaint would not be to XYZ, that would be often returning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He would turn towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then he would pour his heart. He would say, he would say to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as he would feel it. Ya Allah, I'm going through this. This is what is happening. This is what I'm going through. You know what I'm going through. You know what is happening. He would express his heart to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The one who is in control of even changing what he is going through. The one who can manage the situation, and if he wishes to turn it, would either turn it or would give contentment to his heart to live with what he is going through. The two outcomes that can come out of that discussion with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that either Allah will change the situation or give you peace so that while you're still going through that situation, you're not feeling the pain of it anymore. That would also be fine. If I'm living in this house and I'm perfectly fine with it, it's perfectly fine. But if the same house, if there's a police case going on and there's, a court hearing going on, this house would be a miserable place to live in because there would be so much stress related to it. So a same thing can become a place of comfort, or a same place can become an extremely miserable thing. It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can change it. And that's what Ibrahim alayhi salam did. It's not that he did not express himself. He expressed himself, but he would express himself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In another place, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inna Ibrahima la'awwahun halim. The other way around, that he was often returning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was patient, but he was also forbearing. La'awwah, as in he was imploring, he was compassionate, but he was halim as well. Right? So, he was, in other words, a thankful person. He thanked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for what Allah gave him. And when he was in a situation where he didn't know how to handle it, he didn't turn to people, he turned to Allah. That's the first thing that he had. And the reason he turned to Allah was because he was in extreme love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, says that one of the qualities of a mu'min, a person of Iman, how do you know that this is a person of Iman? The one who has Iman. See, love is something that you cannot hide it. If you love somebody, it just shows. It's not that the beauty of loving somebody is that you don't have to constantly go back and say, I love you, I love you. It just shows. Love shows through your actions, through your expressions, through your care, through the various things that you do for that person, or just how you're with that person, how you are or around and about that person. It just shows. Just the other day I was saying that, when somebody is your best friend, you never need to tell anyone that this is my best friend. It's just that when people see the two of you together, they know that, these two are very good friends. It's just somehow it shows. It just shows because how you are with each other, how there's an understanding of doing things, how there's a natural connection that exists between people. It just shows, right? Similarly, a mu'min, he has to have that love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that nobody has to actually think, oh, this is a moment, because that love for Allah shows. And that's the quality that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in Quran, that وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَشَدُّ حُبًّا لِلَّهِ, that those who have Iman, they are extreme in their love for Allah. They have they're passionate. Their passion for Allah, it shows. And that was the state of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam as well. There's a very often famous saying that's quoted about Ibrahim alayhi salam, that when he was a young boy, one thing about all the prophets is that they've all been shepherds in their life. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made them shepherd because being a shepherd teaches you a lot of things. Because people in general are like sheep as well. They tend to follow. One sheep would go, all the other sheep would just follow behind that. And if you know how to control that herd of sheep or that flock of sheep, you basically know how to control the masses as well. So all the prophets in one stage of their lives or the other have been shepherds. So Ibrahim alayhi salam was also a shepherd. And once he was grazing his flock of sheep, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as a test, sent an angel down to him. And that angel passed by him and he was saying, Subhana zil mulki wal malakut, Subhana zil izzati wal jabarut, Subhana al hayyil lazi la yamut. He was basically praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that, Allah is, who is command of all, He is the kingship of everything, He is, the one who has honor, He is the one who has power, He is the one who gives life, takes death. He was praising, the angel was using these words to praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ibrahim alayhi salam heard it, and just as any true lover would, when his beloved got mentioned in front of him, he skipped a heartbeat. Right? It is like heartbeat became fast. Another quality that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions about a moment, that is said, Allazina iza zukirallahu wajilat qulubahum. Right? Wajilat qulubuhum. That as soon as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioned in front of them, it stirs their heart. It causes emotion in their heart. They can't, because they are extreme love with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They can't just, stay normal. And I always say this, that for us, the litmus test is very simple. Azan happens 5 times a day. How many times we hear the word Allahu Akbar, and there's something that happens over here, right? If we are sleeping, like, put the pillow further on our head, and it's like, switch off this alarm, right? The snooze. That's our state. But there are those who, I'll digress a bit over here. I'll cut the story short because I don't want to digress too much, but there was somebody who ended up going to Jannah, and they saw that, this person is in Jannah, saw in his dream. So they went and asked his wife that, what were the qualities that this person had that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him this honor. She said that, he was a very simple man, he didn't do much. But one thing that I do know about him is that as soon as he heard the call for Azan, as soon as he heard Allahu Akbar, and he was an ironsmith. So even if his hammer was here, he would not bring it down. He would just leave it at that moment, that now the call from Allah has come, and he would go to offer his prayer. So that's, that the state of heart changes as soon as you hear the name of your beloved. Allazina iza zukirallahu wajilat qulubuhum. That it causes a stir in the heart. Same thing happened to, coming back to the story of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, same thing happened to Ibrahim alayhi salam. He heard this mention of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and now his heart, started beating fast. So he went to him and said, come here. What did you just say? He said, nothing, I was just praising Allah. He said, no, I want to hear. He said, okay, you want to hear, what will you give me? He said, okay, you take 1/3 of my sheep, but just read it one more time. So he said, okay. He said, Subhana zil mulki wal malakut, Subhana zil izzati wal jabarut, Subhana al-hayy alladhi wal yamut. Now, la yamut, now this person, Ibrahim alayhi salam, is like really enjoying it. He said, one more time. He said, but what will you give me now? He said that you take the remaining 1/3. So he said, okay. Then he said the same words again. Now Ibrahim wants to listen to it one more time. So he said it one more time. And now there's no more sheep left, and Ibrahim alayhi salam is not content. He wants to hear it one more time. So he said, all right, said, one more time, please. But now you have no sheep to give. What will you do? He said, look, you have all the sheep. You don't look like a person who would take care of the sheep. You need a shepherd. I will become your slave. You take me as a shepherd, but I just want to hear it one more time. So at that time, the angel said that Ibrahim, an angel sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just to test, or just to, show us how much you love him. And once again, it has been confirmed what your love for us Allah is. Right? So this was the love that he had for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he was somebody who was extremely thankful, ever turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and somebody who knew, he turned to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because he loved him so much. He turned to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because he was in love with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But it was not just love because he would hear about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his heart would skip a beat. It was a love which was not just through words, but through actions as well. And when there is love between people, another thing that gets connected with that love is trust. Love and trust go hand in hand. The first thing, when the trust is broken, that goes out is love. If you end up doing something which breaks the trust of your wife, and you come her and tell her that I really love you, don't expect a very sweet response in return. It would be a harsh one, because love goes out of window when trust is broken. So trust and love goes hand in hand. With Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this trust in Allah is called tawakkul. Placing your trust in Allah is called tawakkul. When you love Allah, you also trust in Allah. When you love Allah, you know that Allah will take care of you. When you love Allah, you know that Allah has the power to take you out of no matter what you are in. When you love Allah, you do whatever you can do, but then leave the result to Allah. That's called tawakkul in Allah. And Ibrahim alayhi salam had very strong tawakkul in Allah. When he was a young boy, now we are going into, when I said that you will realize that his life was no different from life of any other person. And yet he had Qalb and Saleem, right? So what kind of family was Ibrahim alayhi salam brought up in? Who was he born into? He was born into a family which was idol, who were idol worshippers. It is one thing that they were idol worshippers, and it is another thing that they were the suppliers of the idols who the entire community worshipped. Pay a bit of attention to this fact that they were the suppliers, the manufacturers of the idols that the entire community worshipped, which means that their household income, their source of earning, their economy, their household economy depended on people doing idol worshipping. So when Ibrahim alayhis salam started telling people stop idol worshipping, it wasn't just a question of faith. It was who's going to, where are we going to earn? Who's going to feed the entire family? You're killing the family business. Now it was, for his family, it was a direct attack on the family business. So when his family turned against him, it wasn't just because he was challenging their faith or their spiritual connection. He was also directly attacking the family source of income. So you can imagine that the first people who resisted him were not his community, but his own family. And when you get resistance from your family, it is never easy. It is never easy. Nonetheless, Ibrahim alayhis salam, once it became clear to him that idol worshipping is of no good and that's completely something that is futile. And we know the story that, he used one opportunity to basically crush all the idols, barring one. And the idol that he left was the biggest of all the other idols. And the hammer that he used to crush all the small idols, he put that hammer on the shoulder of the idol that he left. So when the people came back and they saw that all the idols were crushed, he said, who's done it? And everybody said that it's Ibrahim because he's the one who keeps on telling us not to worship. He has done it. So Ibrahim said, no, he has the hammer on his shoulder. He has done it. So now the people knew that, that idol can't do anything. So, it was already proven to them that, what a futile act that they are in, that they can neither save themselves nor do anything to, what's the point of worshipping such a thing? But that particular action of his, this incident, made him public enemy number one. Up until now, it was his family who was resisting him. Now that he had openly attacked something which was, part of their day-to-day living, so he became an enemy, public enemy number one, and it was decided that we need to get rid of Ibrahim alayhis salam. What did they do? They decided that the best way to get rid of him is through such an exemplary manner that it would become part of the, what is it called? Folklore, and everybody would remember it and will talk about it in the years to come. So they decided that we will set up the biggest and the brightest fire that has ever been set up, and we'll throw Ibrahim into that. It is said that it was every member of the community was assigned the task that they should go and collect X amount of wood, and they would come and contribute. So every man, woman, child, older people, all of them went and collected wood, and eventually when they had set fire to that wood, it was such a huge fire that people could not even go near it. And now that they could not even go near it, the next question came, how do we throw Ibrahim into it? So then they devised a catapult, and they said that we will throw him into the fire through that catapult. So when Ibrahim alayhis salam was being thrown into that fire through that catapult, where Jibreel alayhis salam came to Ibrahim alayhis salam, and he said that, Ibrahim, do you need any help? Is there anything that I can do to help you? He said, Angel Gabriel came. He asked that, do you need any help? So he said that, I do, but I want to know that, and of course he knew that Allah knows. He said, but is Allah fully aware of what I'm going through? He said, of course Allah knows what you're going through. He said, then I don't need help from you. Allah will help me. Right? That's your trust in your beloved. And when Allah heard this response, if Allah wanted, He could have taken him out of the fire. He could have put the fire off. he did something that completely perplexed the people who had set up a fire like never been set up before. He ordered the fire, Kulna ya naru kuni bardan wa salaman ala Ibrahim. That, O fire, be cold and safe for Ibrahim. Ibrahim alayhi salam landed in that fire, and that fire was now set at room temperature, 24 degrees. Ibrahim alayhi salam stayed in that fire. In some quotations it says 3 days, in some it was like stayed in there for 40 days. But that fire didn't burn him, because Allah had commanded him that, O fire, become cold and comfortable. If Allah had just said, Kulna ya naru kuni bardan, it would have become so cold that it would have frozen Ibrahim alayhi salam. Allah said, Bardan wa salama, make it cool and comfortable for Ibrahim alayhi salam. So Ibrahim alayhi salam said, so this was his trust. He trusted in Allah, that whatever Allah is doing for me is for my own good. He didn't come, again, going back to, he didn't start, but I was fighting for Allah. I did that whole thing so that people can leave idol worship and turn to Allah, and look, this is the reward I'm getting. I'm going into fire. There was no complaint. Even at that point, does Allah know the state? And I'm fine, because if Allah knows, He'll take care of me. I know. That's tawakkul. Turning towards Allah, love for Allah, and having tawakkul, trust in Allah. 3 qualities that make a person of sound heart. Another quality that Ibrahim alayhi salam had was that when he needed something in his life, and he needed a number of things in his life, he was never shy of asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants, one thing that Allah wants from His servants, from His abd, is that, the word abd, we use it very, but abd translates as servant, right? Servant or a slave. A slave, although is used in a negative context, but if you think about it, a slave has no free will. Whatever it needs, it has to ask its master. And abd, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also wants that He is our master. He wants us that whatever we need, we should ask Him. And that's another thing that Ibrahim alayhi salam had in him, that he would ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Another example of the tough life that he had was that for years he never had a child. He desperately wanted a child. He wanted a child so that he had in his generation who could continue the work that he has started of bringing people to Allah. He wanted a child who could continue his legacy. He wanted a child because it's a human desire to have a child, to complete your love, to complete your, to being human is to have an offspring, right? So out of all these things, out of natural reasons, out of his love for Allah, for him somebody to continue his work that he had started for Allah, he wanted a child. But Allah held back a child from him for a long time. Some says that the first child he had, he was over 100 years old. Some saying like that. Some say over 60 years old. There are different sayings. But he did not have his child when he was 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 50. Definitely not up to 60 years old. He did not have a child. But he kept on making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He kept on asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Rabbi habli min as-salihin. He kept on asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that, Ya Allah, give me a gift, bless me. Hab is to, give as a gift. Ya Allah, bless me a righteous son. Right. So, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala eventually fulfilled his dua and he was given the blessing of a child. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that وَبَشَّرْنَاهُ بِغُلَامٍ حَلِيمٍ, that we gave him the glad tidings of a pious son, of a forbearing son. So he was given that glad tiding, and in another surah it comes that when he was given this good news of a child, his wife, she had reached such an old age that she went into a shock, that she was like, how would it even be possible for me to have a child now that I have reached this stage? But so was the case. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, kazalik, Allah has given the command, it would happen, you would have that child. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it happen. He had this child. So he kept on making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah fulfilled that dua. But with that fulfillment of that dua came a test. With that fulfillment of dua came a test as well. And it wasn't a simple test. It was a tough test. It was a test which we would never want any one of us to go through that test. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam that head towards Makkah with your wife and your child. At that time it was called Makkah. So we know from Quran that Allah subhanahu told Sayyidina Ibrahim that heads towards Makkah. So following the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they reached Makkah. At that time, Makkah wasn't Makkah Mukarramah as we know it right now, a very vibrant city and full of all facilities. It was a completely barren land with hardly anybody living over there. It was just absolutely deserted and perhaps full of wildlife and wild animals at that too. Ibrahim alayhi salam reaches there, he, his wife and the child that they got after years and years of making dua. They reach Makkah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts the command into the heart of Ibrahim alayhi salam that leave your wife and child here and turn back. Return. Leave your wife and child here and return. Now just let that sink in a bit. This is a child who has come after years of making du'as. Like this would be, for any one of us, would be the most precious thing that we would be there in our lives, right? Even taking that journey, as a young couple with a small baby, if we have to make that flight to, any place, there would be 110 consideration that goes into that, can we do this flight? Would it be safe for the baby? Is it okay for him to go at this altitude? How would he handle the pressure and so on and so forth? We are so concerned. And here they are going miles and miles of that journey through all kinds of tough terrain on camel or whatever other animal that they had. And they did it. And now that they reached this place, the command that comes to them is that leave and return. So he doesn't say, but why? There's no why. Like, are you serious? There's no such expressions. There's no questioning the command. It's complete submission. And he just turns and he starts going. And he hasn't even taken the time to explain to his wife and child. Child is too young, to his wife, that what has happened. He just starts going back. And he knows that if I stop and I start having discussion, my heart would not be able to accept leaving it. Or there is a possibility that I may start questioning the command that has come. He did not even want that possibility of questioning the command to creep in. Therefore, he said, best not to get into an argument with my wife right now and move away. So the wife is like, where are you going? What is happening? What are you doing? So she's really questioning him. But he's quiet, he's just moving away. And she's questioning and she's getting really panicked. But she is wife of a prophet as well. So after a bit of questioning, she goes, that has Allah asked you to leave us and go from here? He just nodded his head, yes. So then she says that if Allah has asked you to do this, then surely Allah will take care of us as well. So she stopped arguing as well. She was also a person of high status. Now Ibrahim alayhi salam has moved away and he's going in open plain, completely deserted land. However, there comes a point where there's a mountain and he takes a turn from that mountain and he's out of the sight of the family, and this family is no longer in his sight as well. He now stops here and now he has this. Remember that he was one of those people who would turn to Allah. He was Awwahum Munib. He would turn to Allah and he would express himself to Allah. So this was one of those occasions, because obviously his heart is crushed. He's like screaming inside that what is happening, and that screaming now has to be expressed to someone. So who does he express it to? He expresses it to Allah. Allah quotes that. Allah quotes that dialogue that he had with Allah, because it is so profound. Even every time I talk about it, it just gives me goosebumps. Just the beauty of the words that he expressed at that point in time. I've set the scene up so that you can feel the emotional intensity that one would be in that. And listen to what Ibrahim alayhi salam had to say at that point. He says, Rabbana. Now this word Rabb, right? The word Rabb itself. This word Rabb is a word that's used for somebody. Rabb means nourisher. The one who not just nourishes you, but who takes care of you from the cradle to the grave. Every need of yours, if there is a being who can fulfill, that's Rabb. The word. That's why almost all of our du'as starts with Rabbana. Na is for our Rabb. So Rabbana, Rabb is somebody who is your nourisher, who is your protector, who takes care of you. So he calls out to Allah with the words which are, he calls him, he can't say like, Ya Allah. He doesn't call him with his name. He calls him with his quality which is there for taking care. So he's already expressing that I know that you are the caretaker, you are the nourisher. He says, Rabbana inni askantu min zurri'ati. Oh Allah, I have settled my children. Right? He's like, what has he done? All he has done is just brought them there and he has left them. Right? But he's saying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inni askantu min zurri'ati. I have settled. Askantu is like, this word means that, you have settled them down. Again, the words are there to express that I have left them, but I know that they are settled, because from here on they are in your care, which means that they will be settled over here. So I've left them with the belief that they are settled. However, I have a concern. What's the concern? Biwadin ghayri zi zar'in. I have settled them in a valley without any vegetation. So he's expressing his concern, but in a manner where he's saying that I'm also content in your decision as well. Rabbana askantu, right? Both these words are there to show that you are the protector, they are settled. But Ya Allah, I'm a human being, my eyes are seeing that this is completely deserted, isolated place, there's nothing around in here. So he's saying, Biwadin ghayri zi zar'in. But yet he's saying, in the baytikal muharram. However, I know that this is completely deserted place. You have brought me here because you told me that this is where your house is. So I know that this deserted place where I see nothing right now is a place near your house. So again, I'm confirmed. Again, look at this. He says he has settled. He has settled in the baytikal muharram, next to your house, close to your house. Meaning what? They are your neighbors now. They are settled in a land which is basically your land. So they are now with you. While I'm gone, you will be there. Right? Now, after he has created the scenario that where the family is, if it was you and I, the first thing we would be saying, take care of them. Just look after them. Because the setup has been done to say that, like, they are settled, they are your neighbors. What would we say to our neighbor? I'm going, just keep an eye out. Just look after them. Look at the words Ibrahim alayhi salam says. He says, Rabbana liyuqimus salah. Rabbana liyuqimus salah. Oh Allah, make them one who stands in prayer. Why liyuqimus salah? Because if they have their salah, their iman would be intact. They may die physically, but if they die on iman, they are taken care of. If their faith remains intact, that's the most important thing. So may Allah make them the people who establish their prayers. They are your neighbor, so let them know that they are your neighbor. Let them not take it for granted. Let them submit to you and come to you as a humble servant, not dictating anything out of you, but hoping that you would take care of them. Liyuqimus salah. And then he says, Faj'al af'idatam minan nasi tahwi alayhim. And then he says that, and make the hearts of the people yearn towards them. That now that they have linked themselves to you, they are submissive to you, now make the people become lenient to them and take care of them. This is the first thing he has demanded from a worldly perspective. And then the second worldly perspective he says is, وَارْزُقْهُمْ مِنَ السَّمَرَاتِ, and Ya Allah, bless them with fruits. Samarat is a word that's, although literally translated as fruits, but samar is basically fruits in all forms of things. So, even children are called samarat. Any product, anything that the factory produces is, so it's a produce of everything is called samarat. And the word he has used is that bless them with all the blessings. And if you look at Makkah Mukarramah right now, is a fulfillment of this dua. Things that you will not find anywhere, you will find them there. It's everything is there, right? So he says that make the hearts of the people soft towards them, وَارْزُقْهُمْ مِنَ السَّمَرَاتِ, and feed them with the fruits. This, if he had left his dua at this point in time, that would have in itself been a profound, complete dua. He started by telling them that I know you are the caretaker, I've settled them, which means that I'm taking my responsibility off, leaving them to you, and I'm also telling them that you're neighbor. But because they are near your neighbor, make them realize that fact that there's a command and subservient relationship over here. So make them establish them in their salah, and then of course, make the people lenient towards them and give them something to eat as well from different fruits. This in itself is a complete dua. But he doesn't end over here. He says one more thing. He says, لَعَلَّهُمْ, so that they may yashkurun, become thankful to you. Make the people lenient towards them and give them food so that they may become thankful to you, so that they may realize that all of this is coming from you. What is the underlying thing in all of this? An underlying thing in all of this is the ever realization that Allah is in control, that everything turns to Allah. Everything that is happening is by wish of Allah. Allah knows what He is doing. The first four qualities that we discussed about Him, that He has the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He knows Allah takes care. The quality that he turns towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He does not complain to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but turns to Him to express what he is feeling. The fact that he puts his trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The fact that he is an extremely thankful person to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All of this is reflection in these words, and hence why these words are quoted in Quran. It's like if we were to ever write this in English, we would write it under the quotes, right? It's like to say that this is what he said. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying. That he said, Rabbana inni askantu min zurriyati ila al-akhir la'allahum yashkurun. This is how, and this is what makes the heart a sound heart. Another quality that a sound heart has is that it is extremely humble. Extremely humble. Ibrahim alayhi salam, the story goes on, after a while came back to Makkah Mukarramah. So he had left his family, and we know that what happened, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to go into that story. After a while he came back. He came back, and now he came back to fulfill what he had been asked to do earlier on when Allah had originally sent him for. Basically, when he came initially with his family, with his wife and the young baby, was to reconstruct the house of Allah. The house of Allah has been there since Adam alayhi salam. Adam alayhi salam had come, and he had come and done the tawaf of that house, and it got demolished in the time of the floods of Nuh alayhi salam. And then after that, Ibrahim alayhi salam was asked to come and reconstruct it into a building shape. The foundation was still there, and Jibreel alayhi salam had pointed to him that this is where the foundation is. The Google for Ibrahim alayhi salam was Jibreel alayhi salam, and he had brought him to that place. Now he came back, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that he, by this time, Ismail alayhi salam, who was the son of Ibrahim alayhi salam, the one who he had left in that wadi of without any vegetation, that valley of no vegetation, he had come of age as well, and he was there to help Ibrahim alayhi salam as well. So this was the father-son bonding time. Now they were reconnecting and they were doing something which was for the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that is yarfa'u Ibrahimul qawaida min al-bayti wa Ismail, that when Ibrahim was raising up the foundations of the house along with Ismail. So both of them were then. After a while, they completed the construction and the house was complete. So there was a launch event, right? The real estate was all set and now there was a launch event. And in that launch event, guess what Ibrahim alayhi salam said? There was no profound speech about, this was hard work. We had to lift all these boulders ourselves and, we came up with these mechanical engineering concepts and there's this and this and that. Ibrahim alayhi salam turns toward Allah. Remember, he is what? He is Allah. He is the one who is Munib. He turns to Allah every time he needs something. He turns to Allah and he says, Rabbana taqabbal minna. Oh Allah, please accept this from us. We have done this. We have done this construction. Doesn't go to Allah. Where's my reward?
What do you think?
What do you think? How great a job I have done, right? Or it was a tough one. I had to look at my hands. These boulders were tough. None of that. No complaints. No showing off of what he has achieved. The only thing he says is, Rabbana taqabbal minna. Oh Allah, accept this from me. What's one thing that's, you can see it's coming out of it is what? Humility. Only a humble person would, after completing something like this, would come and say that, please accept it. I've done this, but I really hope you like this. This is like a beloved who, crosses 7 rivers, goes to his, this is a lover who goes to his beloved and says that, I got this for you. Please take it from me. There's no concept at that point in saying that, I have done this, I have done that. His only wish at that time is that I have done this for my beloved. May my beloved accept it. Rabbana taqabbal minna. Innaka antas samiul alim. Indeed, you are all hearing, all knowing. Why would he say all hearing, all knowing? That's not to remind Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala what qualities he has. It's to tell him that, Ya Allah, I know. You saw what I went through. You know what I went through. You saw every step and every difficulty that was there. I don't need to show anything to you. I just know everything that I was doing. I know that it wasn't hidden from you. I don't need to remind you of anything. All after knowing and seeing and hearing everything, I just ask you, please accept it. Please accept it. And not only that, he goes on to say that, Ya Allah, if there is any shortcoming in any of this, please forgive me as well. One thing is that you're saying accept, and after doing such a great work, he's also seeking forgiveness. وَتُبْ عَلَيْنَا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ التَّوَّابُ الرَّحِيمُ. That please forgive us because you're the best of the forgivers. That's the humility that he had. So how many qualities of a sound heart? He was ever turning to Allah, thankful, ever turning to Allah, extreme love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He turned to Allah with complete trust. He had trust in Allah. He made dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Every time he needed something, he prayed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He would be humble in his actions. Whatever he did not. He returned the actions to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and he sought Allah's acceptance and forgiveness in it. I know we are well above the hour mark, but if you're not tired, there are few qualities that are left in the sound heart. If I have your permission, I would like to express or complete those as well. Strength or no strength?
My friend's had a long day.
Yeah? Chale. So then, in honor of your friend, we'll cut it short. I'll only complete the 2 qualities that I have left.
Just to be nice.
Just to be nice. All of this, titles, friend of Allah, beloved of Allah, to us that makes us think easy life, right? You're a friend of Allah, you're chilling out, man. You have the God by your side. What do you have to worry about, right? No. They went through extreme test, a test that you and I probably cannot even think of. That's the kind of test that they went through. When they had completed the house of Allah, and now there's a bonding between the father and son. It's already there. So that, again, this is a child that had come after years of making du'as, or years of praying to Allah. He had to leave him, then he came back to him. They did something, and when you do something with your son, it helps build a bond with him. So naturally now there's a bond with him, there's an understanding between the two. They're a team now. And at that point in time, Ibrahim a.s. starts seeing a dream. He sees a dream that he is sacrificing Ismail a.s. He sees it one day, he says, okay, maybe a bad dream. He sees it the next day, he said, okay, a bit worried. He sees it the third day. Now, the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala communicates with his prophets is either through a command, through Jibreel alayhi salam, which is called wahi, or the dreams that the prophet sees, they are also a command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's a great wisdom in why this command would come through a dream and not through the command through Jibreel alayhi salam. The reason is that the command is such that if Ibrahim alayhi salam comes and tells him, there may be an uncontrolled emotional reaction. Of course not, I'm going to do this, right? And for a prophet, that is against his stature, for him to say something like that. So he would see it as a dream, which he would wake up and he would have time to internalize what he has seen. But once he had seen that dream for 3 days, he knew that this is a command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah has asked me to sacrifice my son. And this is a son who has now become his right-hand man. He is a connection with him. And I'm saying all of this because Allah says that. He says, فَلَمَّا بَلَغَ مَعُ السَّاعَ, that thereafter when the boy had reached an age with which he could work with him. So this is a son who had grown up and he is now his father's right-hand man. He's reached the age of maturity. That's when this dream had come. What did Ibrahim a.s. say? He said, let's go for a walk. Because he knew I can't say this in the house, if the wife hears this would be too dramatic to handle. So they said, let's go for a walk. And they go for a walk. And now they are walking in the area which we now call Mina. Right? So their house naturally was in the Bayt al-Muharram, near to the house of Allah. Now they've come, and in that, even now it's quite a distance, so you can imagine back then how far away that would be. They are in a place which is called Mina. And Ibrahim a.s. tells him that, my son, I have seen a dream, and that dream tells me that I am slaughtering you. And then he says to him, that what do you think about it? Right? What do you think about it? Again, look at the way he is with his son. We have to tell our children to do something that Allah has commanded. It's like, do it or else. There's a instant, stick that's coming if they even say no. Right? He realizes that his son has become mature, so he's talking to him as an adult. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, again, I'm not saying this on my own. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala quotes all of this. With Ibrahim alayhi salam, there are so many parts of his life that Allah has quoted as an incident. So he said, فَلَمَّا بَلَغَ مَعُ السَّاعَ, when he has reached the age where his son had become something to help him with, he said, قَالَ يَا بُنَيَّ. Again, the beauty. Ya bunayya is like, this is like, oh my dear son. Love. Even he is calling him with love, like which shows something that he is so precious to him. Ya bunayya, inni ara fil manam. I have seen a dream. Anni asbahuk. I have seen a dream where I am slaughtering you. I am about to cut your throat. Fanzur maza tara. What do you think about what I have seen? What's your opinion about this? Now, this is the son of a prophet. He is somebody who has worked with the prophet, and of course this is going to have an effect on his personality, his upbringing. All of it shows in the way he responded. If we tell our son something like this, that, I'm going to punish you, he said, forget about it. He would throw even 4 tantrums harder than us. He would not even like to call us, Baba or Abu at that time. It's like he responds back just as the way Ibrahim alayhi salam called his son with love, Kala ya bunayya. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the son called back with the same respect and love, Kala ya abati. Oh my dear respected father, if'al ma tu'mar, do what you have been commanded. Why are you asking me? You're the Prophet of Allah, you have been commanded to do something, do it. There is no opinion, there cannot be any opinion that I will have. Just do it. If'al ma tu'mar. Satajiduni insha'Allahu minat thabirin. Inshallah, you will find me somebody who is patient. What a beautiful response. So now, the two have come to an agreement that this is something to do. And they are walking on. And as they are walking across, Shaytan comes to him. And he says, Ibrahim, what are you about to do? Think about it. This is your son. You have already left him. You abandoned him when he was a baby. Are you going to do this to him again? Think about your wife. What would happen to her? So Ibrahim alayhi salam realizes that this is Shaitan, so he picks up pebbles and he throws 7 pebbles on him. And then he moves on. Shaitan comes again. He throws 7 pebbles on him again. And again this happens. He again tries to, incite him and make him lose his heart. He again throws pebble at him. This throwing of pebbles, what we do now in Hajj, is basically the same action done in the remembrance of the actions done by Ibrahim alayhi salam. That's the story behind it. Ismail alayhi salam goes to him that, oh my father, this will be tough on you. I think there are a few things that you need to do. First, sharpen your knife enough so that it's instant. B, make sure that you're standing in a way that no blood comes onto you, because if the mother sees the blood, she would be really upset. And also you take my shirt so that you have something to remember me with. And I suggest that you tie something on your eyes so that you don't have to bear seeing what is happening to me. So they both realize the gravity of what is about to happen, but yet they are fully compliant to it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Falamma aslama, right? Then they both submitted to themselves. Falamma aslama watallahu lil jabin, and they lied down on their forehead. Now Ibrahim alayhi salam has the knife in his hand and he is about to slaughter his son. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says at that point, وَنَادَيْنَاهُ أَنْ يَا Ibrahim. When we saw this, we realized what's happening. We called out to Ibrahim, Oh Ibrahim, قَدْ صَدَقْتَ الرُّؤْيَا. You have fulfilled your dream. قَدْ صَدَقْتَ الرُّؤْيَا. You have fulfilled your dream. Inna kazalika nadzil muhsinin. And this is how we reward those who do ihsan, who do good deeds. How? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala replaced Ismail alayhi salam with a sheep. He slaughtered that sheep. And this act of slaughtering the sheep is now an act that we perform every year on the day of Hajj. And not just those who are at Hajj, but all the Muslims perform it, and they will continue to perform it till the day of judgment in the memory of this profound act that Ibrahim alayhi salam did in submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you think that this was a small act, look what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has to say about this. He says, Inna haza lahuwal bala'ul mubin. This was indeed a trial that clearly demonstrated their obedience. This was a bala. This was a big, big thing. This was not a small test. وَفَدَّيْنَاهُ بِذَبْحٍ أَزِيمٍ. And we ransomed him with a great sacrifice. وَتَرَكْنَا عَلَيْهِ فِي الْآخِرِينَ. And we left for him among the later people. We replaced this thing as an act to be followed by the later people. That's how we rewarded him. But this was a big thing that they did. It wasn't a small thing. That's complete submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Most profound thing that the Qalb and Saleem has is that they are completely submissive to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Remember that when we were talking in the previous sessions we said that one of the attributes of Qalb and Saleem is that they love for Allah. That everything that they love for the sake of Allah. They love their family because Allah has asked them to love their family. If Allah wants them to take their family, they are happy with it. It's easy said than done. It's not something that's attained overnight. It requires to have a deep connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Deep connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala highlights few qualities of Ibrahim alayhi salam. The last thing I promised that I will talk about Ibrahim alayhi salam. He goes that when Ibrahim alayhi salam had realized that he was thrown back by his family, he was thrown out by his family and he was told that, there's no hope working with them. He said, he realized, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَإِنَّهُمْ أَدُوٌّ لِي إِلَّا رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ, that they're all an enemy to me except my Rabb, who is the Rabb of the entire universe. So he acknowledged that everybody else is no friend if my only friend is Allah alone. And then he says, Allazi khalaqtani fahuwa yahdin. He expressed his realization of who Allah is to him, and again Allah is quoting that realization because it was such a profound realization. The point that turned his heart into a heart which is Qalbun Saleem. He says, Allazi khalaqtani fahuwa yahdin. He is the one who created me and He is the one who guides me. Wallazi huwa yut'imuni wa yaskin. He is the one who feeds me and He is the one who gives me drink. It's not our jobs that feed us. It's not our bosses that gives us our next drink that we need to have. It's not the payroll that we get at the end of the month for which I have to comply with whatever the company policy is. I have to do whatever my boss is asking me to do, whether it's against or by Allah's commands, because I have to put food for my family. No. Wallazi huwa yut'imuni wa yaskin. He is the one who feeds me and He is the one who gives me drink. Wa iza marattu fahuwa yashfin. And when I become sick, He is the one who cures me. I don't need that job so that I can have that insurance, so that when I become sick, that insurance can cover my health bill. It is Allah. He is the one. Wa iza marattu. When I become sick, fahuwa yashfin. He cures me. Wallazi yumituni summa yuhyin. He is the one who will make me die and He is the one who will give me life. If I go against somebody and they decide that I must die, they can try as much as they want. I will only die when Allah has decided it's time for me to die. And it is He who will give me life again when it is time for me to get life. وَالَّذِي أَطْمَعُ أَن يَغْفِرَ لِي خَطِيَّتِي يَوْمِ الدِّينِ. And the one who I hope will forgive me for my faults on the day of retribution. And then a dua, Rabbi habli hukman wa alhiqni bis salihin. O Allah, O my Rabb, give me wisdom and make me join the righteous. When you are to raise me, because you are the one who will raise me, then raise me with the righteous. وَجَعَلْ لِي لِسَانَ صِدْقٍ فِي الْآخِرِينَ. And destined for me a truthful description among the next generation. If you have to leave a legacy for me, remember so many people say that, what would you like to be remembered by? What would you like to be remembered by? This is one, I think, one of the things that in every leadership course where they say that, think about it, that what would be your legacy? What would you like to be when you leave this company? How would you like people to remember you? Ibrahim alayhi salam is saying, he's not saying that, thinking to himself, he's asking to Allah that, Ya Allah, when you want to leave a legacy for me, leave it as a person who was truthful. وَجَعَلْ لِي لِسَانَ صِدْقٍ. And destined for me a truthful description among the next generation. Fil akhiri. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, last dua He makes is that وَجَعَلَنِي مِنْ وَرَاسَةِ جَنَّةِ النَّعِيمِ. That Ya Allah, make me among those who inherit Jannah, who goes to the gardens, blissful place. وَغْفِرْ لِي أَبِي إِنَّهُ كَانَ مِنَ الضَّالِينَ. And because he is making this dua at the time when he has just left his family and reached this realization that there's a split, he still has a soft corner for his father. So he's saying, and forgive my father, he was among one of those who went astray. وَلَا tukhzini yawma yub'asun, and do not put me to disgrace on the day of judgment when we will be raised. And then in the end Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, yawma la yanfa'u malun wa la banun, the day that neither the wealth nor the sums will come into handy, illa man atallaha biqalbin salim, except who comes to Allah with a sound heart, with a qalbin salim. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us realize that what does it take to have a sound heart, and make us work towards turning our hearts into a sound heart as well. This month that is starting is a month full of examples of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Every single thing that we do is in remembrance of Ibrahim alayhi salam and fulfilling the sunnahs of Ibrahim alayhi salam. We have a very profound connection with Ibrahim alayhi salam. Well, it's not just the physical actions that he did, throwing of stones, cutting off sheep, that we need to act. We also need to have these qualities. We need to work towards having a qalbun salim as well. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us this quality, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from those who have qalbun salim as well. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.